Welcome to Can't Knock the Shuffle Season 2. I'm your host, Sean Kantrowitz. If you're anything like me, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume we have this in common, you love finding out how songs are made. The stories, the details, the hidden gems, all of it. Here's the thing. Most artists typically only get asked about a handful of their most popular tracks. Not only do fans like you and I want to hear the stories behind all of the songs, but I long have suspected that the artists themselves are pretty eager to share some of the untold stories too. That's why I created Can't Knock the Shuffle. I take an artist's entire catalog, put it in a playlist, throw it on shuffle, and then we talk about whichever songs are randomly selected. It's like live liner notes with an algorithm in the driver's seat. In this episode, I'm joined by one of hip-hop's greatest storytellers, Masta Ace, a man whose career spans over 3 decades and is chock full of distinct chapters and a seriously creative approach to making albums. He made his debut in 1988 on the Juice Crew's The Symphony, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, hip-hop posse cuts of all time. He also created a Breukelen anthem as 1/3 of hip-hop supergroup Crooklyn Dodgers, where he, alongside rappers Special Ed and Buckshot from Black Moon, made the Q-Tip-produced title track for the soundtrack to Spike Lee's beloved film Crooklyn. From there, his discography has consisted of mostly concept albums, from the satirical lampooning of gangster rap in 1993's SlaughtaHouse, to more linear storytelling projects like 2001's Disposable Arts, to 2012's Ma Doom, Son of Yvonne, a project dedicated to his deceased mother over a bed of beats by MF Doom. There are few rappers currently making music who have the accolades that Ace has, and his dedication to the craft is just inspiring. All right, enough talk. Let's get into it. Masta Ace, how are you? What's good, man?
What's going on, Sean? I'm good, man.
Really great to have you. You know, we were talking a little before we started recording. This show is always really fun and really interesting when you're working with somebody who has such a lengthy catalog. And your catalog is, there's interesting chapters, and you've had quite an evolution as an artist. And my question to you before we even get into any of these songs, how have you sort of navigated making those changes? You know, like you went very conceptual at a certain point. You know, you were doing like more satirical stuff and sort of like commentary on the state of music. Do you always know the plan of what you're going to do when you start an album, or does that sometimes reveal itself to you?
I don't always know the plan. After my first album, because the first album I really didn't have any creative control other than writing the rhymes. You know, Marley Marl was I was following his lead. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was a brand new artist, had never made an album before, so I kept quiet. But after that album, I was always trying to tell stories within the album. And so from SlaughtaHouse to Sitting on Chrome, and then obviously it really got more detailed when I got to the Disposable Arts album. But in most of those cases, I didn't really know where I was going to go with the story until I started making the songs. And then it all kind of came to me. A lot of stuff comes to me like in the middle of the night, like 4 a.m. I get the great idea. I write something down. You know, I used to keep a notepad and pen next to the bed. So because I would always come up with these ideas in the middle of the night. And I had a little mini flashlight. So if I got up in the middle of the night and thought of something, I would turn that flashlight on, just jot it down, and then go back to sleep.
We went through your whole catalog and randomly selected 7 songs, so we're going to hop right into it with our first song. Song 1. It's from 2012. It's from the Ma Doom, Son of Yvonne album, and the song is called Think I Am, featuring Big Daddy Kane and MF Doom. Rest in peace.
Cause the bottom is thick like a hippopotamus, tramp stamp on the lower back. See, I know the facts, the whole fill me in. My best friend is a twin named Lillian. I'm going really in, I'm really going in. Foul, I bust on that tile that you throwing in.
Who you think I am? Who you think I am? I tried to holler outside when she was getting out of ride. Guess she must got that parking lot Alzheimer's. Cause now find us, cozy at the bar. Guess at that point she ain't know she had a star. I can't explain what might have got into her.
Obviously, we're all dealing with the recent loss of MF Doom.
I just listened to that recently.
Is that because you were sort of reflecting on your work with him?
Yeah, it was. I was asked to do sort of a quick audio tribute for a satellite radio show, and for me to reflect on my time with him. And so I recorded this, really quick, summary of my relationship with him and what he meant to hip hop. When I sent the drop, the audio drop, they played it within the hour. And so after they played the drop, they played the song, and I got to listen to it all the way through. And just like really just sit back and just soak it up. And it's like, wow, like, I'm glad that happened. It was one of those deals where you start to lose faith when you're working on the album and you ask somebody for a verse and so much time goes by and it just starts to seem like it's not going to happen. And I actually held my album up because the album was ready to go in 2011. It was ready to go, except for that song. Because we linked at the Montreux Jazz Festival in June of 2011. That's when I talked to him and I told him that I've been working on this project. I actually performed 2 of the songs from that album. They weren't mixed or anything. Just went out there with roughs and performed those because I wanted him to hear the joints, what I was working on. And he came on stage and everything. Like he's like rocking on stage while I'm performing the records to his beats. And then after the show, I went back to his hotel room and I played him the whole album. And I was like, it'd be dope if you could get on the joint. I played him the joint, Think I Am. I only had my verse. I didn't have any other verses on, just my verse. And there was a particular line when I said, the last line in my verse where I said, I bust on that towel that you throwing in. I remember him like chuckling, like, oh, she say, oh shit. And then he's like, yeah, I'll do it. So that was in June. I was communicating with his cousin about getting the verse. And so June, July, August, September, October, November.
For those who don't know, he's not necessarily known to be the most reliable guy. Like he's communication can be a little difficult,
Yeah, so I told my partner, I was like, yo, man, if I don't hear nothing by January, man, we're just gonna put the album out without his verse. At that point, I had already had Big Daddy Kane's verse laid down on the song, and I feel like it was like mid to late January. His cousin was like, yo, I spoke to him. He's working on it. He's definitely working on it. I was like, okay, well, that's at least a little light at the end of the tunnel, even though so many months had gone by. And I want to say February 15th or so, somewhere around there, mid-February, he sent the verse. And to my surprise, it wasn't just like a throwaway verse. It was like he wrote specific bars about me, about what the album was about. He talked about the show that me and Marco Polo did with him at the Montreux Jazz Festival. I was glad I waited because that meant more than him just giving me a verse about whatever, just rhyming about whatever. Like he wanted to write something specific, which made it more meaningful to me. I can be an impatient person when it comes to waiting for artists. So I normally would have really moved on. My partner Rich was one of the people that was in my ear, like, yo, just wait. And I think the label, the distributor wanted us to wait too. But I was just getting impatient. But I was just really glad that he blessed the joint the way he did. And yeah, man, it's one of them songs I could always look back on. I'm glad we got to do a joint together.
Yeah, it's interesting too because it is, especially for a guy like him, it's one of the less abstract verses from him. It is literally like he's talking about you. He's talking about the theme of the album. The album that it comes from is collection of MF Doom beats, and the theme that runs through it, it's sort of a tribute and pays respect to your mother.
Right.
But that song itself, did that sort of tie into that, or like what was your sort of like thought about and getting Kane on that as well? Like how did that fit in, or what kind of part did that play?
It was such a highly conceptual album. I felt like I needed a joint that was just bars, just rhyming, just going in, and so that became what that song was going to be. It didn't matter, I took because the Think I Am sample was already in his beat. So I just wrote around the Think I Am, and I let each of them, Kane and him and Doom, figure out how they wanted to, approach their verse, and how it would connect to that. But Kane, I feel like I was around Kane right around the time I was working on that album. We were at some event together or something, and I was trying to figure out who I wanted on the song, and then it just kind of like hit me. I think my partner Rich was like, "Yo, you haven't done nothing with Kane since the symphony, right?" I was like, yo, I haven't. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not mad at that idea. And I reached out to him. I didn't know if it was going to get caught. You know, me and Kane are close, we're friends, but you never know. I never worked with him like in that capacity, so you never know how complicated it can get. Like dudes be like, well, you got to talk to my manager.
Sure.
We cool, Ace, but you got to talk to the manager. So, but he didn't do none of that. He just he said, send me the beat. I sent him the beat. I want to say like a week. He shot it back to me, man.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Were you a big MF Doom fan, like leading up to deciding to do this project, or how was, because a lot of these beats had sort of been circling around. He'd put out instrumentals. What, was your relationship with his music leading up to deciding like, yo, I'm going to do a whole album over these Doom beats?
So when I dropped Disposable in 01, the distributor was a company called J-Core. And they actually had put out a Doom album on the same year. And so I remember going up to the distributor. They gave me a bunch of CDs, whatever they had coming out on their label. Right. Since I was on the label, they're like, here. They gave me all this stuff. And so Doom's I think it was Mad Villainy. Or maybe it was the Food album. It was one of those two albums. But they gave it to me, and I knew who he was. I knew that I was Zev Love from KMD, and I would hear through, the grapevine, people talking that, he was doing this new sound, this new, persona. And initially I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. So eventually I listened to it. Some of the beats were just way too abstract for me, like almost no real syncopated rhythm that you could, like, how do you rhyme to this? Like some of it was like that.
Very sloppy. A lot of the production was very just loose.
It was just very, and so, but I was able to hone in on a couple of the joints that had the familiar rhythm for me. And then I got to really zero in on the rhymes. I was like, yo, this dude is saying some dope shit. Like, and so if it was from that moment, like in 01, that I started to, pay more attention. And I guess he was still putting records out and consistently putting records out. But when I started working on the album, I had all these, the beats. I was riding with a friend, my guy Roman Oben, who used to play in the NFL. And I was riding with him in his car, and he was playing all these beats. I was like, yo, what's these beats right here? I wasn't familiar with his catalog to know, like people that are real Doom heads, they hear the beats, they know, oh, that's Doom, that's such and such. They'll be able to tell you who rhymed on it, all that. But I didn't know the beats. So that made it dope for me to write to it, because it was like new beats to me, even though most of his fans knew these beats, like, inside out. For me, it was new. If I was familiar with the beats, I don't think I would have been able to write an album to them. So it worked out, perfectly. And Roman was playing, he had a CD with maybe like 30 or 40 of beats from his Special Herbs release, his instrumental releases. And I was like, yo, let me, hook me up. I want to ride with those. And there was really no plan to write to him. It was just to ride to him, because I don't like listening to the radio. So I was out for a while. I was just riding around in the car, listening to those beats. And a couple of ideas started popping into my head, rhymes and stuff. And, the album was kind of born from just riding around with his instrumentals.
Song 2.
So sometimes the algorithm will select, album cuts, and sometimes bigger songs.
Okay.
So I'm sure you've talked about this song before, but I think it's always cool to revisit. It's 1994. It's from a soundtrack, and the song is called Crooklyn.
We did it like that, and now we do it like this. We did it like that, and now we do it like this. Go inside your mind and find a time that you miss, and just think about the steel in your fist. It's just an extension of your arm. It's that ghetto type of charm that makes all the homeboys swarm. Can I drop the bomb? Oh yes I can. Move with the groove, smooth like Geechee Dan. Who is the man? That kid there. Who is the chick with the pick in her hair? Angela Davis, and we roll like Avis. Rent a car, kid, there you are.
Yeah, man.
What are your thoughts when you hear this song?
I still remember getting a phone call from Q-Tip, who had never called me before. Like, it was just like, who is this? Yo, it's Tip. You want to be on this song for Spike Lee movie? Like, he asked me, like, just like matter of factly like that. I was like, hell yeah, like, I need this right now. It's 94, but at the time when we did that record, my song Born to Roll had blown up around the country. It was huge in the West Coast. It was huge in the South. It was huge in the Midwest. It wasn't huge in New York. The talk on the street was, Ace, he went over there with them because, it was very much a divided culture at that time. It was either West or East, take your pick. And so they kind of, New York kind of pushed me into the West ledger. Like, you over there with them, you ain't rocking with us, you with them, you doing that kind of music. The timing on being asked to do this Crooklyn song, a movie about the city that I'm from, where I was born, raised, the timing on it was perfect for me. It was a no-brainer for me to say yes. I remember going to Special Ed Studio, Dollar Cab Lab on Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, and sitting down. Tip was there, Ali Shaheed, Buckshot. I can't remember everybody that was there, but it was probably about eight or 10 people there. And he played the beat, and it sounded dope. I was like, okay, cool. And so we all went home and wrote our rhyme. I can't remember if we went back to Dollar Cab to record. I think we did, but we recorded, and then Tip submitted it to Spike Lee. When Spike Lee heard the rhymes, we weren't given any direction. It was like, yo, go in. So we were just rhyming, like I'm, braggadocio, just going in.
I'm the best, I'm the illest, I'm the dopest. Yeah.
And so Spike heard it. He's like, yo, this is dope, but it doesn't really capture what the movie is about. And he's like, you guys need to see the movie. So he set up a screening. This was like months before it hit the theaters. He set up a private screening for me, Buckshot, Special Ed, Q-Tip, Alicia Hay, a few other people, in a very small, cozy little theater. And the theater might have held 25 people. It was like one of those kind.
And had you ever written a song like in this way where you're writing it to fit a soundtrack or a theme, or was this sort of a first time for you, having to rewrite and think about it to accompany a piece of media?
I don't think I'd ever done that before that I can remember. And so we watched the movie. They turned the lights up, and Spike was like, okay, now go back and rewrite the verses based on what you just saw. And that, what you got is the result of that song, us referencing the 70s and that time period. I mentioned the TV shows that were out back then and all of that. But it was just kind of cool that there's another version of Crooklyn that I don't know who has. I believe that I have it on a cassette somewhere in a box, a bin, somewhere in my madness.
Yeah.
There exists a cassette that has the original rhymes, which I think would be cool to hear because I have no idea what rhyme I even said. I'd love to hear that.
So when you finish this second version and it is more thematic to the film and talking about, the city, does it feel like it's a monumental moment, or does it just feel like, sometimes this was obviously a huge song and it spurred a sequel that came, a year later. And then even another one that was done like in the 2000s as well.
Yeah,
a little less popular. But at the time, does it sort of feel like, that we've made something important with a capital I, or is it just like, oh, this is great, this is a dope song, like keep it moving?
Well, for me, it was important to my career that song, that I was on that song. I needed that balance. And so the timing of it couldn't have been better. I can't help, when I hear that song, I can't help but think about what could have been, because we were supposed to do the Crooklyn 2 song as well, me, Buckshot, and Special Ed. Spike actually wanted to go forward and do an album. He had a deal with MCA Records, and he was full steam ahead with, let's do an album. All of that was exciting to me. But unfortunately, Buckshot and his camp, they had just signed their deal with Priority Records. They had a lot of money coming in. They were very busy, and he chose not to be on the Crooklyn 2 joint. And so we set about the task of first trying to talk him into doing it, and then trying to find somebody to replace him. And before me and Ed could even get the conversation going, Spike was like, nah, I'm just going to switch it. Just make it all, it's not the same if you just replace one. So I'm just going to get all 3 new guys. And there it was. I was, booted. We got booted, and it never came to fruition. So I always think about what could have been. The cool thing is I did end up, because Premier scratched my voice, I did end up being in the video and on the song for Crooklyn 2, so that's cool.
Very prominently too. I mean, like, it's not just a little, you're in a car driving by real quick. Like every
Right.
time the hook happens, you're getting some screen time, which I always thought was cool. Not only for them to acknowledge you, but you sort of obviously passing the baton to them as well. But yeah, what could have been? What could have been? Right. Why do you think that is too? That happens a lot. You mentioned something earlier where sometimes it's easier to get love outside of where you're from first, and then eventually people come around. We can talk about this a little bit later too as we get into it, but do you feel like that was effective once you did that song, that you did feel a little bit more solidified and accepted by New York?
Yeah, I would say yes. it wasn't a necessarily warm, fuzzy reception, but it was like, all right, he cool, you know. He's still down, I guess. It was more like that.
Typical New York.
That's New York, though. That's New York.
Whizzing by, this is an expansive catalog. So now we're all the way up to 2018. It's from a Brooklyn story with Marco Polo, and the song is called Sunken Place.
Life is a test that we keep trying to cheat on. Easier to dance through the time, put a beat on. We can get our freak on, but can't get our speak on. Eyes closed, can't see the light from the beacon. From a sunken place, we look up to the sky, thinking we ain't really gonna get up till we die. Nah, rise up, raise up, get up, stand up, wise up, wake up, sit up. Man up, right, left, right, left, march. Come on, right, left.
What a hypnotic beat, first of all. Like, just instantly, the first time I heard that, and I would infer that you might have had the same reaction. It kind of just sucks you in, right? Like,
when I heard it, I was like, ooh. I had the cadence, but I didn't know what the rhymes were going to be. But I knew I knew how I wanted the rhyme to fit into that beat. Once I started figuring out what the lines were going to be, it really wrote itself. The hook was problematic until I reached out to my guy Bundy, who's done several hooks for me over the years. I knew I wanted to call the song Sunken Place, but I couldn't even really give him any direction. Like, this is what I want the hook to say, or this is how I want the hook to sound. I was like, that was one of those. Sometimes I have ideas, but that was one of those where I was just like, this is what I have. See what you can come up with. I couldn't believe how fast he came back with something, how dope the hook was. He put the whipped cream and the cherry on top of that joint and made it a song. Because if we didn't have that hook, you know, it's a dope record, but without that hook, it's incomplete.
What's the relationship and the working relationship been like with Marco Polo? Obviously, you did a whole album with him. I know you've worked with him, you know, before. So how did that sort of come to be?
Marco has been around me since 2004, 04, 05, when he produced a joint on my album, A Long Hot Summer. He also produced a couple of joints for EMC, my group. And then we took him on the road with us. EMC went out on a tour. We took Marco and Torre out as openers for the EMC tour. Music relationships are really built on tour. You get that chemistry, and you're essentially living together. We just became really close in those years, and we found out that we both like to eat at good, proper sit-down restaurants when we're on the road.
Which is super important, because that is the line in the sand when you're on. I've been on tours with people as well, and it's like there's the people who want to eat fast food, or gas station food, and then it's like, nah, like let's spend a little extra, like, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I could always count on Marco to yo, I'm with you, Ace. Let's go to a official spot and sit down, and they bring out bread first, like. So we definitely bonded in that way. When we were on that tour, he brought us to his folks' home. We met his mom, met his dad, met his dog. You know, his dad barbecued, you know, in his backyard for us. Met his brother. You know, that's how relationships, you know, real friendships get built. And so, you know, music is sort of the backdrop, but we're friends, like, first and foremost. Love that guy, great guy. He holds it down. If I could get him to quit smoking, everything else about him would be just absolutely perfect.
Well, maybe he'll hear this. Maybe this will be the hearing it in a public space. Nah,
I don't know.
When you're working with somebody, the dynamic between when an artist works with a producer and it's like a full album, who's driving the ship? Or is it really a 50-50? Because also I would imagine he's probably geeking out because he's a hip-hop producer and he's working with Masta Ace.
I think he's way past that because, like I said, it's a friendship. Like, I don't think he thinks about it like that. I think we just doing music. But as far as who drives the ship, he'll say that I drive the ship, but I'll say that without his inspiration from the music, because if I don't get the right music, we don't have a project. Like, I'm not going to be excited. I'm not going to write nothing dope. And it's like a waste of time. I don't want to do that. You know, he submitted many beats for that album, you know, that I said no to. You know, I don't think I hurt his feelings. It was just like, he would send me like 3 beats. I'd be like, nah, none of these. And it wasn't even that the beats weren't good. They just weren't me. And I would always tell him like I would tell him who it fits. I said, this sounds like some bumpy knuckle shit, or this sounds like some MOP shit, but this ain't for me. And he'd be like, I got you. And then every now and then, I really explained to him what I was looking for. You know, I want stuff that's more melodic, that's more heartfelt. Get some strings in there. Strings are always good. Violins, cellos. Those are the things that get me, you know, get my ideas going. And so he really just followed the things that I asked for and was able to ultimately deliver the perfect, you know, set of beats that turns into that great album.
This is from 2001, Disposable Arts album that we mentioned earlier. And the song is called Type I Hate.
Stop and stare for what you there for? Do you need to know every single thing about my life? It's not enough that I rap and sing about my life, even when I'm asleep. You got nothing else to do but call up your man who's a bitch nigga just like you. Talking about my business like it ain't nothing. Y'all have a 2-hour discussion on who I might be fucking. Cats with these feminine ways and traits. Just one example of the type of niggas I hate. Come on.
See, some motherfuckers got nothing to do but sit around and talk about.
What do you think about when you look back to the Disposable Arts era? Where were you at now that we're 20 years removed from it, which is a crazy sentence to say out loud.
It is. Where I was in my mind was, this is going to be my last album. Nobody's really interested in what I'm doing musically, which is okay. But what I do want to do is I want to go out on my own terms. I want to go in the studio. I want to make the exact album that's in my head. I want to pick all the beats. I want to decide on all the choruses, all the features, all the skits. And when it's all said and done, if I don't do another record, at least I'll be able to look back at this record and say, that's a complete representation of what I could do without label people in my ear. Because up to that point, I had to answer to people, and I was sick of that.
You had had an album that was lost or shelved as well.
It was one album that got shelved the year, like a couple of years before Disposable dropped, like 98. Around 98, I had an album that I was working on that didn't come out. And that was when I really stepped away from the industry. I got dropped from that deal, and I was kind of done for a while. I was like not messing with music at all. I was really more about trying to get more behind the scenes, produce, maybe get a job at a record label. I was shopping beats as well as resumes, just trying to see if I could get me a job somewhere and see if I could land in a nice little situation and help other artists, maybe not make the same mistakes. That was my thinking around that time.
The title itself, Disposable Arts, and the skits and the motif that kind of runs through it, it did kind of seem like you kind of were seeing the writing on the wall as to where it seems like things were going at the time, and you're making commentary on it. You're talking about, you have like these skits where there's like this school that you can go to and like learn how to become a practitioner of the bullshit of the industry, like the same shit that you were saying about. I don't think you were wrong. I think everybody would agree that you weren't wrong either, but does getting that statement out make it any better? Or what's your sort of thought on that now? It's like you made an album called Disposable Arts, and guess what? A lot of music did continue to become more and more disposable.
Yeah, that was at that time period when I made that album, that was the era where whatever the new rappers were of that time period, they were going in the studio recording 50 songs and then trying to pick the album based on the 50 songs they recorded. There's so many throwaways, so many joints that never saw the light of day because they weren't well thought out. They were just like beat, verse, chorus, repeat. I could tell from the music that I was hearing that people didn't really put any time into what they were doing. One verse didn't matter. You could take a verse off one song and put it on another song, it would be the same song. I just felt like there was a deeper, purpose for hip hop as far as I was concerned, and that I wanted to come from just a pure artistic place and speak about what I was seeing. And so that thus the title, and even down to, I remember the title and when I told my partner Rich, Filthy Rich, when I told him, because I didn't reveal the title till way towards the end. They kept asking me, I was like, I'm not saying nothing yet. Because I really wasn't sure yet. I was still toying around. And when I finally told him and my man DJ Rob, they were my two partners. When I told them what the title was, it was like a a pause in the room. Like they looking at each other. Well, what does that mean? And I was just like, yo, that's the title, man. Like, I made it very clear to them that this was going to be, if I was going to do this album, that I wanted full say on everything that I'm doing. And I didn't want any pushback or any alternate opinions. Just let me make the album I want to make. And they did do that. There was a few, moments where they were second guessing me. Like, I remember my partner Rich saying, ain't nothing up tempo. You get some up tempo joints. I'm like, Rich, shut up, please. Let me do the album I want to do. I don't want to hear about up tempo. I don't want to hear about radio. I don't want to hear about none of that.
Right.
Let me do my album, please.
Because you're looking at this as your exit statement anyway. So you're not trying to plant the seeds of radio hits and
right.
Success.
Exactly.
You made a song called Type I Hate, where you're talking about the type of people that you hate, that you feel like are being dishonest with you. You're making it on an album called Disposable Arts, where you're talking about the industry is clearly on some bullshit.
I sounded bitter.
Well, yeah, but my question was really going to be in the years that followed, obviously you didn't retire, so something shifted. But did you feel that those things were still true? Did you feel like you were still dealing with bullshit, and did you feel like the industry that you were working in was being consumed by bullshit, or what changed? I guess, or did nothing change in your perception, but your just attitude about it changed?
What changed was I went on tour in 2000, right before that album was made. I went to Europe. I did 13 shows. And I went out there with really no expectations other than I'm gonna make a few bucks and I'm gonna come home. I hadn't really done I hadn't done a tour like that in Europe ever. I'd done maybe a one-off here, a one-off there, but never 13 shows in a row. I couldn't believe that people were coming out to these clubs and filling these clubs up, were so enthusiastic about me being on stage and doing these records. And that was really the catalyst for me to make Disposable Arts, because I thought nobody cared anymore. And after Disposable Arts dropped, and we went on this tour in 2001 with Punching Words and Strickland and DJ AV and JF, that was when I found out that people actually cared what I was doing. They knew the words to songs off Disposable. It was because of Napster and stuff like that. People were sharing my music, and we were performing songs that people were familiar with, and the album hadn't even dropped yet. We went on tour before the album dropped. It gave me new life. It gave me the realization that, maybe my thinking was a little bit too fire and brimstone and screw the industry. I figured out that I had a lane, and all I needed to do was stay in that lane and make music for these people that are filling these clubs up in Europe, and everything else will take care of itself. And that's exactly what happened.
There's an argument that could be made that some of the work that you've done before was conceptual for sure, but this was sort of a concept album, and you've pretty much been releasing concept albums by and large ever since. So I feel like I guess being embraced by the crowds for taking a risk. Again, your manager was like, "No, the single." You're like, "Please shut up." Let me try this. I want to make a concept album, which there weren't many of. There's certainly been more over the years. That this kind of kicked off the concept album kick for you.
To me, the concept thing started at SlaughtaHouse, but I hadn't fully realized it yet. I hadn't fully executed it, is what I really meant to say. SlaughtaHouse I stuck my toe in the water, tried it out, and then the next album sitting on Chrome, I got a little bit more. There was a little bit more narrative in the storyline, but it wasn't until Disposable that I pulled it all together and made it really cohesively flow with the songs, beginning to end. But I've been trying it. I've been trying to do what I did ever since '93. It just took me a while to figure out exactly what it was, and it all came together on that album. I should mention on the Type I Hate song, I should big up the two ladies on the song, Digga, obviously, and then my wife singing the hook for me. That has to always be mentioned because she blessed the song.
Song 5.
That's a great transition because the next song that we have is from the next album, and it's a song that also features her. This is from A Long Hot Summer, and the song is called Brooklyn Masala.
I met her on the corner of Gates in Bed-Stuy. It was only right that I approached and said hi, cause she looked like no other chick I ever saw. She was on the way coming up out the corner store. I asked could I carry her bags and walk her home. I could tell she was new in New York just from her tone, cause she wasn't that typical rude and ignorant, teeth sucking and eye rolling, telling me leave alone. We dipped and we yapped, we chit and we chat about this and that and where she lived at. Yeah, this may sound kinda Wu-Tang Clanish, but this butter pecan honey was not Spanish.
Now we're in the Long Hot Summer era. You kind of already touched on this a little bit in the last song, but now maybe you're not as closed off. Maybe you're kind of more leaning into this new direction at this point.
So the only reason that A Long Hot Summer, that album got made, is because as soon as Disposable dropped in '01, like within less than a month, the distributor went out of business. They closed their doors, they folded. Like they shipped my album to some outlets, and then the whole operation, J-Core, just went out of business. Like the people that were working at the office on a day-to-day, they came to work not even knowing. Like they came to work and it was like, oh no, we're done. Like work's over.
Which is exactly what you want when you're an artist who just put out a concept album that you need to get like worked. It's like all your support disappears.
It was just like, here we go, another one of these situations. Like, and why me? And so I said, this album is not going to get a fair shake because of this mess. So I need to do another album that lets people know about Disposable Arts, because I felt like people weren't going to know about it. And so my idea was to do, because Disposable Arts told this narrative from beginning to end, my idea was to make A Long Hot Summer be the prequel to the story on Disposable Arts. That was my plan. My plan was to write this storyline, because at the beginning of Disposable Arts, my character is stepping out of prison. That was really symbolism. It was really me not putting out records for X amount of years. If you listen to the lyrics on the song, the first song of the album, it explains it. But anyway, I wanted to do this prequel because if I connected the two albums together, if fans got A Long Hot Summer and loved it, and then they heard me in interviews say, oh, there's another album that I did before this that's connects the story. That's why at the end of A Long Hot Summer, my character is getting locked up in jail.
Do you have any specific memories about this song in particular, Brooklyn Masala?
Yeah, I remember that in 2000, I recorded that song to a different beat out in Philadelphia with Jazzy Jeff and a Touch of Jazz producers. Shout out to my man Darren Henson and Ivan, those guys, dope young producers at the time. And they were really just starting to get their stuff going out there in Philly. This is pre-Jill Scott, pre-Floetry, pre-Music Soul Child. Everybody was just in such a creative space. And so I wrote that song and recorded that song in Philly first to a completely different beat. And I should mention that singer Marsha Ambrosius sings the hook on the original Brooklyn Masala. That song exists. It's on, you can find it on YouTube. I made it available on one of my Masta Ace Hits You Missed mix CDs. But yeah, she sang the original hook on it. And once I got this idea to do this new album, I said, I'm going to save that beat. And I'm going to save that song and use it on something. And I saved it and used it on Long Hot Summer. So I made that in 2000 and it didn't come out till 2004.
Was it the original beat or did the beat change, you're saying?
No, totally different beat. And so the hook that she sung wouldn't have worked on the new beat. And I think by then Floetry had kind of taken off and I knew it was going to get complicated. So I just, I'll just revisit it and keep the lyrics and just change everything else.
We may have talked about this when you were on the questions last year, but when you're creating a concept album, are you writing it linearly? Like, even if you, like, do you either have an outline or are you writing the songs in the order of the story, or is it just kind of all over the place?
Neither, not at all. I focus on the music making first with no storyline in mind at all. I've heard other concept albums where you can tell that what they're trying to do in the songs is connect the skits that way. It changes what you would rap about. I don't even think about concept, skits, storyline while I'm working on the music. Once I get 75% of the music recorded, then I start thinking about where to go with the storyline of the skits.
So you basically reverse engineer it, where you do the music and then you make the skits around the songs.
Exactly.
You know, as somebody who has done so many concept albums, what are some of the concept albums in hip hop or otherwise that really stick out to you as nailing it or hitting all the marks?
I really liked Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Bad City album. I think that reminded me the most of something I would have done. The story about him borrowing his mom's van, and he's out with the van. All this shit happens with the van and with him, and dudes pulling guns on him, all this kind of stuff. And meanwhile, back home, the mother's like trying to get her van so she can go whatever she had to go do something. And then on the cover is a picture of the van. Like all of that was to me like right in line with so I felt right at home listening to that album. That, you know, of all of the other concept albums that have been put out, like that's one that executed it the best to me and in line with what I would do.
It's funny too, because a lot of times when you look at these concept albums, the story itself, if you told it like just on a piece of paper, you'd be like, okay, but like, is that really an amazing story? It's like, yeah, he borrowed his mom's van and then like he got in trouble, but then he returned the van. But it's all of the fleshing out of the world through the songs and the emotions. Right. And you do that too. The log line, as it were, of like the plot is just like, okay, but the songs really, it builds it. And like it builds on the skeleton. You get like the flesh and
Absolutely.
Song 6.
All right, we're going to move to 1993. We talked about it a little bit before, but this is from the SlaughtaHouse album, and it is the song, SlaughtaHouse.
It's the Jeep. What you know about the Jeep? It's the Jeep. It's the Jeep. Here we go with the Jeep. Never hear me talking like a killer, man. Started making records, but I'm still a fan. I'll take you down. I'll break your crown. I'll make you frown. I'll wake your town. Tick, check it out. Talk, I rock your whole block. Got the funk dialect in stock with the boom, bashing. Bass drum is smashing and crashing your bedroom walls. The monster mash.
I don't think there's many people in the industry, to my knowledge, who have done what you did here, which is, and just to put it into context here, you adopted the sound from another region, like you were saying, like, you know, you're from New York, and you sort of latched onto the sounds of gangster rap and LA and sort of embraced it in a way while also kind of undermining it or speaking critically of it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I did.
You're like, yeah, I did that. What was the precedent on that? Like, and were you thinking in your mind, because again, you say you're from New York, you know, your first album, you didn't have as much creative control over it, but it didn't have that sound. Are you thinking like, yo, I'm going to do this and piss a lot of people off? Or is it like, I'm going to do this and everybody's going to understand what I'm doing, and maybe it didn't necessarily connect in that way? Or it kind of did also.
I don't know if I cared if I pissed anybody off, because I didn't say anybody's name. I was really just talking about the genre in general. And it wasn't even about West Coast per se. You know, because in the video, the rappers that I was depicting in the video had Jerry curl wigs and Raiders hats on. That's what made it seem like I was specifically going at, you know, LA, but it was really the entire genre, because what had happened at that point in time in 92, 93, the success of NWA sparked this complete movement and shift in the industry where record labels, by and large, were only signing artists that had that same message, the same concept, the same delivery as NWA. Because they were platinum and double platinum and triple plat, whatever they were, all the labels were looking for the next NWA. And it became so flooded with that. And then all of the New York rappers, everybody started wearing big 40 below boots and, you know, trying to rap super about gangster and fight and guns and knives, and you know, it just became super like violent and negative. And that somehow along the way, those images and those ideas and those themes became associated with what hardcore hip hop was. And in my mind, that never was what hardcore. It wasn't about the content. It was about, is the beat hard? Is the MC going in? Is he saying some stuff? Like, is it dope? That's what it was really about. And so I felt like the music industry sort of I guess, recategorize what hardcore hip hop was, and that bothered me. And so it was more me going at the industry than a coast or whatever. But I can understand how some people took it that I was just specifically going to LA. And then, look what happened a couple years later, I'm the biggest record in on the radio in LA.
I'm curious to know about when that happens, is that a straight win, like a success for you? Or is that like, oh shit, like, do they get it? Like, is it big? Are they gravitating to it, but do they also understand the message within? Or was that not even an issue?
With SlaughtaHouse, I think it went over most people's heads. Only the real, intellectual hip hop heads got it. But by and large, the industry they never even got it. And how I know that is because I remember being at a car show in St. Louis. The promoter, I was out there for a show, and the promoter told me, he's like, yo, your song SlaughtaHouse is like, that's the song out here. Like, everybody's rocking to that. He's like, watch, they're going to play it. And we're at this car show. I think it was a wet t-shirt contest or something going on. And the DJ puts on SlaughtaHouse, but not my part, the parody part, the first part, where they're talking about murder, 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 and kill, kill, kill. We were trying to like kind of crack a joke a little bit.
Satire.
It was satire. And the people in St. Louis and in Houston and other places, they took it on face value. Like that, yeah, murder. They was completely rocking with it like it was intentional, that's what we were promoting. And I was like, I was amazed. I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but I was like, wow, like people really don't get what's happening on this song. Okay. And because of that, we actually had to go back and do a remix version with just MC Nigero and the Ignorant MC. We had to do a 3-4 minute version of just them rapping because that version was blowing up.
But how did that make you feel at that point?
I felt a little like discouraged, I guess, because my message really didn't hit the mark for people. And, part of me was like, man, people are stupid. That's what I was saying somewhat in my head. Like, wow, how dumb are y'all? Y'all don't get this part. But all right, whatever.
Well, obviously there were elements to the music that you must have enjoyed as well, because if you're going to dive in and you're kind of trying on these clothes, like you're wearing, the sounds of the beats and like the aesthetic and stuff like that. Was it more so that, was it not that you necessarily had a problem with this music, but it was that the industry was all just like, this is the only shit. This is like the only like true form.
You nailed it right on the head. It wasn't that I hated gangster rap. I listened to NWA and others. Some of that stuff was dope, but all of a sudden, y'all gonna turn the whole hip hop movement into that? Like, that's not all it is. We got Tribe Called Quest, we got Kwame, we got Salt-N-Pepa, we got Kid and Play, we got all of these different artists that are making dope music that's talking about different stuff, not just gangster stuff, not just shooting people, not shooting cops, and it became, it's either this or the industry wasn't messing with it. And that's where I had a problem.
Right, because not only is that creatively stifling, but it also takes on problematic elements also when you see the artists that are being showcased and the people who are often co-signing and making the decisions about this is what it is. I'm speaking about far broader, sociological, issues there. And then we talk, and the result of it, you got banging in Little Rock. Like that's what comes of it. You got gang, Crips and Bloods in Little Rock, Arkansas, because of this big, huge movement that the music industry is putting hundreds of millions of dollars behind to promote these images, these ideas, these thoughts, drinking 40s and smoking blunts and misogyny, all of that stuff. The industry threw tons of money behind it, and I had a problem with it, so I tried to speak on it. It's like, lo and behold, there actually was a cause and effect. Like, believe it or not, spending $100 million has an effect. One last thing before we move on to our last song. Did you ever sort of feel like, because the following album, also sort of adopted more of that sound as well, but did you sort of feel like you were going down that path where you might like be pigeonholed into that? Or was it always like, I know I can step out of this, and I'm going to go back to doing whatever music I want to do, after I'm done doing more of these satirical projects?
Well, really, SlaughtaHouse was the only satirical project I did. The next album, Sitting on Chrome, was sort of, me trying to clear the air a little bit and bring the coast together. So I have the storyline of my cousin from LA coming out to New York to stay with me. And it was like me trying to show the two cultures blending together and getting along. And how it could be just fun, and a West Coast kid could come to the East Coast and chill out, and hang out with his cousin, and go meet girls and do all of that kind of stuff. Maybe I figured that I had rubbed some people the wrong way, and I wanted to make up for it, and that was the way I made up for it. I don't know.
It was like an olive branch, kind of, in that way.
Yeah.
Song 7
is from 2016. It's from your album, The Falling Season, and the song is called Mathematics.
Y'all little rap cats ain't figure this. The specimen's regimen is rigorous. The hate so exponential. My potential means it's only couple bars for a nigga diss. Is it geometry or trigonometry? Try and count up all the currency that I'ma see. And where I'ma be, it's on top like a numerator. Fast, it's the cash accumulator. Trying to follow after this is like calculus. It's hard to calculate what you about to miss. I'm like a fully grown tree when I bear fruit. I'm feeding y'all from the branch to the square root.
Another very conceptual song, existing as an island in itself, where, you're just using math as sort of like a metaphor and math terms. How do you devise that?
I like having fun when I write, man. Like, I like to be challenged when I'm writing. You can get bored, I have a lot of people that they reach out to me. They want me to spit a 16 on their song or their album, whatever. And it's like the same damn thing. I asked them, what's the concept of the song? Just the love of hip hop, and, like, come on, like, damn, like, how many of those verses can you write after a certain point? It just becomes boring. And so anytime I get the opportunity to do something outside the box, and I know there was other songs. There was another couple of artists that did songs about math, and I listened to those songs to make sure that they didn't do what I was gonna do. And so I just have fun, and I always have fun writing conceptual songs, because I want to see just how deep I can go and how clever I can be. There used to be a time in hip hop where being clever and being witty was a cool thing. Some of that gets missed now. And so mathematics was definitely one of those joints where I just wanted to have a little fun, be witty, and make people ooh and ah a little bit.
When you're working with a theme of a song and a motif like that, how much research do you do? Like, obviously we all took math classes when we were, in school, but like, are you busting out like a glossary of like, what's a math term that I could throw in here?
I definitely did that because I wanted to, a record like that, what I want to do is, as I'm writing it, I want to have a page full of math terms. I think I might have just Googled math terms or something like that. And I just wrote a bunch of them down. Like, this, especially the math terms that could be used in double meaning, in more than one way. So I just wrote a bunch of math terms on the paper, put the beat on, and just started constructing a verse or two verses based on with those words helping guide me. It was fun exercise.
This song comes from The Falling Season, which is another conceptual album where you're sort of speaking about a specific era of your life, your childhood years in school.
High school, yeah.
Yeah, high school. I think I know the answer to this, but have you thought about, or are you in the process of writing a film or writing a story? Because it seems like all of these albums are sort of the hip hop album equivalent of that.
I'm writing a hip hop musical right now. It's about 2 years in the process of doing it, writing it. A lot of the music is already written. The script is written, but I don't like to say the script is written, because that sort of suggests that it's finished. The script is ever changing. It's too long at the moment. I got to cut down about 20, 25 pages off of what I have. But I've been working on it for about 2 years. Early in 2020, March, I believe, right before the quarantine started, we had a table read. We brought some actors in, and we had the actors sit around the table and just read the parts. I think each actor had two roles. So, because it's like, I don't know how many characters. There's maybe 12 or so characters in the musical, but we didn't want to have 12 different people. So we just brought like 6 or 7 people, and some people read 2 parts, and just so we could hear it. So the story's coming out great. I'm excited about it. I'm still making working on the music part, which is a challenge, but I like challenges. Being able to write a song and still push the narrative forward of the musical and not sound corny. Like, that's the challenge. And so, yeah, I've been working on the music, and we're actually going to do a mixtape of the music from the musical, where I'm going to get some of my good friends in hip hop to come in and record these songs as these characters, and we're going to put that out. And so people are actually going to get to hear the music from the musical before the musical actually comes out.
And listen, if there's anybody who is qualified to create a hip-hop musical that is about hip-hop, it's definitely this man. Big thanks to Masta Ace for his time and for his great catalog of music. Keep up with his latest projects by visiting MastaAce.com or following him on Twitter at Masta Ace or Instagram at Masta Ace Pics. Or just Google him. You guys have the internet, right? Listen, it's so great to be back. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and give it a 5-star rating and review. If you like Can't Knock the Shuffle, be sure to check out the other shows on Stony Island Audio, including Open Mike Eagle's What Had Happened Was with LP, Dad Bod Rap Pod, Super Duty Tough Work, Fatherhoods, and Self-Core. If you want to talk to me, I'm at Sean Dammit on social media, or send me a message at can'tknocktheshuffle@gmail.com and tell me who you want to see on the show next. And also be sure to check out my hip-hop game show, The Questions, by visiting questionshiphop.com. Till next time, peace.